Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Lodgify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
All right, today I'm actually going to read the media sheet and be prepared. Travel demand, blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, I got to call Michael.
Hey, Brandy.
Hey, did you read the media sheet yet?
No, I usually pull it up about halfway through the show.
Yeah, no, you want to pull it up right now.
Holy cow.
I know. Let's call Will.
Hello?
What's up, Will?
Hey, Will.
What's up, guys? Oh,
Did
I'm
you-
on a group chat. Okay, what's
You
up?
are. Did you read the media sheet for today?
Yeah, I actually put the media sheet together. So, what do you think?
I mean, yeah. I can't believe that TravelNet is sponsoring us.
Yes, you got it. We are sponsored by our friends at TravelNet. So, let's celebrate.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning. Wow,
Good
we
morning.
did a quick wardrobe change here from that, earlier phone call that we had,
And location change.
3 outfits. 3 outfits in 3 minutes. Taylor Swift
how we
level.
roll. Yeah, it's just how we roll. No big deal. What up? Well, good morning. Happy Monday. It's an exciting Monday. First run with Track or TravelNet, Atlas, all the above. And super excited to dive into today's episode because apparently we love to talk about fees on this podcast. This is like our third time. But hey, it's all good.
They're in the news a lot.
Yeah.
And they're a pain point for a lot of us. And it's one of those things that it can really just grind your gears.
Yeah, hopefully this is like cathartic for all of our listeners to like also complain with us and have us kind of dig into why they're so annoying.
100%. It's a little bit of a hot take episode where we're just going to kind of go all in,
Yeah.
I'm pumped. Outside of that, how was your guys' weekend? All good before we jump into everything?
Yeah, I just did a lot of cooking. I had a little bit of an accident with a mandolin, but my hand is still intact.
And to be clear,
Thank
not
God.
the instrument, mandolin.
Not the instrument, the cooking utensil.
Thank God.
Well, yeah.
Brandy
for
shows
me,
up on Monday with no hand. She's just like podcasting with nothing.
down a finger.
What about
Yeah,
you, Golden?
pretty chill for me. I guess one special announcement is happy birthday to Will Slickers and his twin brother TJ.
Woo!
Happy birthday, you two.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Still in your 20s?
Yeah, still there. I got another 2 years. So
Still the
we're rocking.
baby.
Unbelievable.
Yep. But I will get a call from my brother. He'll brag it in 1 minute older. So that's how it is. It's gonna be like that for the rest of my life. So
if you got it for it, right?
Yeah. Hey man, it's the
1 minute makes all the difference.
It does. But thank you guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, so this is gonna be fun because we talk a lot about the Airbnb fees, but we saw an article last week with mentioning the government getting involved in the whole travel fee situation with surcharges and upcharges and the amount that it's costing travelers in general now compared to what it used to is pretty insane. I don't have all the numbers, but it was definitely a good enough topic that the three of us were like, we should just hit everybody and just set an Airbnb. We should just go all in. And so let's do that.
Whole
Michael, I
travel
know
industry
you.
on blast.
Yeah.
Well, before we do that, I want to put the government on blast because it's the pot calling the kettle black. When if you look at your airline ticket, like 3 or 4 of the fees are actually taxes that the government has put into place. So you've got your fuel charge, your runway charge, your airport charge, your sales tax. So it's a bit funny to have the government saying you guys can't add fees to anything. So now that that's behind us, there's a whole bunch of travel fees that Skipped put into this article, and for me, one of the fees that I hate the most, that's the least necessary, but we all know why it's done, is the resort fee.
Mm-hmm.
If I am traveling for work and I'm staying there one night, there's a 0% chance I'm using any of the amenities of the hotel, except for maybe coffee. And these big resort hotels tend to have charged coffee. You have to pay for it. So that fee really gets me going when I see like $49 added for something that, I'm spending less than 24 hours at this property. I will not take the wristbands to get me into the pool area, but take that $49 off. They don't take it off. So
Yeah. So we definitely have charged resort fees before. And this kind of goes in, and I'll kind of sprinkle these like nuggets throughout the episode, but kind of Sexton's journey with fees from the early days through kind of now that we're, I like to call us a teenage company. We're more established. And when we have units that are in condo hotels, we were like, well, everybody is paying a resort fee if they're staying at the hotel portion, so we should charge that too. That's why I leave that revenue on the table. And I think that if you're, coming to stay with us for like 5 days, you probably don't even notice that that's there, or it makes sense. But I would definitely understand if someone was staying for one night and they're like, why am I paying this resort fee? Because I'm not going to use anything. So and this goes along with kind of the theme of like, just add everything in. Like, why do you have to have the resort fee, especially for the hotel? Like, just have that be part of the price. So.
Yeah, a lot of these places, the resort fee, you don't even get until you get to the property. And that's what really pisses me off.
Yeah.
It's okay if it's built in and I see it and I know that the all-in price is $250 a night. But then if it's $250 a night, it's like, yeah, and we have a resort fee added on top of that.
What's the reasoning for doing it when you get there? Is that so that they can change it? Like, is it dynamic resort fees?
No, you're just not going to get up and leave, right? You're stuck. It's
and also
not a good policy.
I also remember back in my like hotel front desk days, it did take a little bit of time for the OTAs to catch up to that fee being implemented on the PMS. So it would be like, oh, well, Booking.com and Expedia can't showcase the resort fee because they don't know how to add that, especially when it came to commissions and all this other stuff. So they would just be like, all right, well, we'll charge it when the guests arrive, and it goes on your incidentals rather than like if you pay via virtual card on Expedia or Booking. But man, I remember just getting destroyed at the front desk, especially when we were a business kind of business and leisure hotel. And the biggest thing was like a lot of our guests were returning guests. So one week they're coming in like normal, nothing. They get their normal rate, they get their normal room, all the service and everything and above. To then the next week they're like, why am I getting hit with a 35 or 45 or whatever dollar charge for the same stuff that I've been using for free or not using for free, and now I am forced to go into it. So it definitely comes off in the sense of leaving a really bad taste into a loyal guest mouth, but then also just people in general when they're, like Michael and you guys both said, it's not online, they book, they get there, and then all of a sudden, boom, here's another $50 you owe us. So it's kind of like a slap to the face.
Yeah, I actually just in real time had the realization I had this phantom charge on my card from the Flamingo from Verma, and it was like $49.99, and it didn't match any of my receipts, and that's definitely what it is. I had no idea what it was. I like stayed there for literally 10 hours before
And
my
they
other
just
room was
slide it
ready.
in. They
Oh,
don't
that
tell
is so
anybody.
sneaky. But you brought up another point that we're dealing with. I mean, I've dealt with it with all of our systems in the last couple of years, but it's this mismatch of what your system can do versus what the OTAs can handle. So, for example, we have a damage waiver, and for everything, instead of charging a security deposit or anything like that. But some OTAs don't have that field, and so you have to pick one of the ones that they offer. But then sometimes, so for example, we might have to have like an environmental fee, but it's actually the damage waiver, or a management fee. And that is from a customer perspective, like, why are you charging me a management fee? Why are you charging me this other fee? When in reality, it's just a damage waiver, so you don't get charged for anything that you might do in the room. So it's like the technology gap seem like that part is really frustrating. And it seems like it's easily rectifiable. They already have a list of fees, like add another one. You know, if you that component does not seem to be too difficult.
So to tie this into maybe the vacation rental audience, I'll share another fee that really gets me going, that I'm sure most operators charge, is the
cleaning
early
fee?
check-in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
knew this
understand the
was
late
coming.
checkout, like if you've got a turn or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I also understand an early check-in if it's not available. Like if the room is still being cleaned, I get it. Like that, no pushback. If the room is empty and I arrive on a flight at 10 a.m. and there's nothing in the unit, why charge $50 to drop my bags in and leave? It doesn't, as a traveler, it's not the best experience. Like it is one of the differentiators between a hotel, which a lot of hotels will let you in your room as soon as you're there if they've got it available, but they've got a lot more inventory in the singular property, right? And I get why offering it, ahead of time for a family, if they want to make sure 100% that unit's going to be open at 10 a.m. But for the fairly flexible traveler, it does really get me going when I know that unit's empty. I saw the calendar the day before is open and I can't get in an hour early, right? Well, checkout codes go out at 4. So Brandy, explain to us.
So yeah. And so this comes as like part of the journey I've said is like from us as a much smaller operator to now, finding things in our processes that are not really in line with the stage of life our company is in. And so when we were starting out, I mean, you are trying to make just as much money as possible. And, if people were like, oh, this is great, we can charge $100 for the early check-in fee. And, that's $100 we didn't have before. And also, so there's a couple different, now we have totally gotten rid of that. Like if you arrive and your unit is ready, you're welcome to check in. Our problem comes to our building. Our largest building has 77 units, but most of them don't have that. So the odds sometimes, especially if you're coming in on a high turnover day, that your room is ready early, really, really slim. And so we get like, our stance is if you request the morning of and the room is available, absolutely you can go in. But if your flight gets in at 9 a.m. and you want to guarantee that you can check in, you have to pay for an extra day because
Totally
we're going to have to.
with that.
And
I get it.
Right. And so that's the thing is that I think people that are industry familiar are like, yeah, that makes sense. That's no problem. We get a lot of complaints about that. And it's kind of like in the last couple of years, we've had this conversation about the re-education of the consumer towards this type of product, because especially ours, it looks like a hotel and functions in many ways like a hotel, but you don't have the scale, like the volume of rooms. And so, yeah, we had a family and they wanted to check in early and they wanted to confirm that a couple days in advance. And we also have to make sure that our guest experience team has the proper kind of like common sense and empathy training. And, driving that home. But we were like, we can't, if you were like, you were happy to, $150 for confirming the early check-in, but it's like, that's the only way we can guarantee that, because we could have someone book and then a 3-night stay in the meantime. And they were really upset about it. And so it's tricky. And the operational challenges are definitely part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
I go ahead, Will. I'll hammer my point home next.
No, go ahead. Mine's gonna go into a different point, so I'll let you tail it.
Yeah, I 100% get the operational, like if it's booked, it's still getting cleaned. If there's maintenance, whatever, like the room's just not ready. You can't get in because it's just not ready. Versus pay us $50 to get in, 2 hours early.
Yeah.
And you can usually tell as a traveler which one it is. I've back in a previous life when I was traveling and staying in hotels a bunch, I had a lot of status at a particular hotel brand, and I got there and the room wasn't ready early at all. So they gave me the presidential suite because it was a room that was available, because none of their regular rooms were available. Like that is a home run experience. But to your point, Brandy, like there isn't that density in vacation rentals, and I totally get it. And especially if we're talking about houses, you can't just move houses from one to another, because you're representing different homeowners and different revenue streams. So
exactly.
It's one of those things, like if it's ready, let them in. If it's not, totally fine. Just be transparent. We're
trying to figure out ways to go, like, kind of lean towards the hotel philosophy of those upgrades. And we're trying to figure out how can we, in a efficient and non-operationally difficult way, provide upgrades. So if you have a 2-2 at the Lola in New Orleans and you want to check in early, and we have a 4-bedroom that's available and no one's checking in for that time period, move them and kind of give an upgrade. So we're trying to figure out how we can play with that too, to because that is a great experience when you go to a hotel and they're like, the presidential suite, that's amazing.
This was the Hyatt in Austin. So shout out to Hyatt. Well done.
I love that. Oh, I was going to say, like, going into the sense of convenience and fees and how that applies, but I think what you guys said pretty much nailed it on the head. And then I remember in our group chat, I sent you guys an article about like hotels, a hotelier, I forget the CEO who was on this panel, basically saying like they missed the boat to adapt the business. Like the hotel industry out of all of hospitality has failed to adapt into I guess the change, because I had a consumer that's willing to change with them. And so part of my question, I guess, to you guys would be, and I'll share this article for anyone who's interested later, but for you two, when it comes to, like, we've talked a lot about different trends, different data, different things in the industry, operational wise. Do you think the traveler really was willing to change and kind of go down a new route outside of like what we've all expected pre-COVID? Or do you think that a lot of us kind of forced some change that maybe wasn't good when it comes to fees and operations and revenue? Because like my biggest thing, especially for us being a smaller property management company, we only have 10 homes. So my big thing is like, we only make commission from nightly rate. So why not find good ways to do upsells, and not like the early check-in where it's like, hey, you want to check in an hour early? $55. You got to give it to us.
2 hours early, 65.
Yeah, but it's like we offer like kind of a in-home like market or store like that people can, pay for stuff, and other services that go into it, not to shout out shameless plug, but like Mount, something like that, where we can just plug in an amenity and just let anybody purchase it. It's insured. We don't have to worry about all the headaches. Like something like that for us is a big game changer as a small company. So I'm guessing, or I'm not guessing, but my question to you guys is, do you think we changed the wrong way?
So there's two sides to it. Yes, hotels absolutely missed the boat on changing, and the customer not only was willing to, but wanted to change. Mm-hmm. Standing in a check-in line at a hotel is an obsolete waste of time. I haven't checked in at a airport in forever. because it's online. You just check in online and you walk straight to security and straight to your gate.
TSA
And that's that,
pre-check.
right?
Yeah.
And the same thing with a hotel room. Like, yes, it might be a little bit expensive to switch, upfront costs and whatnot, but long term, your front of desk or front of office doesn't have to be as big of a team. If guests know what room they're staying in, they know how to get into that room. They use their phone for everything. They're already using their phone for everything. So I do think there was a lost opportunity. And part of it was because of cost constraints during COVID. I get it. Like, no one wanted to spend money to upgrade things, legacy IT systems. But sometimes that's the best time to do it.
Also, it's shame. Like, it's also not the best time to wait 20 years to actually wait for something like COVID to come and like make you change. Like, there's been technology way more advanced than in 2019 than any other time outside of like these last 2 years. But there's plenty of other times that they could have updated and gotten to a more
And they still can.
higher. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because so last week I was in New Orleans and I worked a couple hours at the front desk at our building, the Lola, and it was just really interesting interacting with guests because that building is large. So we have like a kind of like a building supervisor that's there, and they have a lot of different roles, not just like check-in because we don't have that. But it's interesting watching different, like some guests come in and they know they just wave, they're going straight to the room, they have all the information. Some people came up and they're like, we're here to check in. I'm like, do you have all your codes and everything? They said, yeah. I'm like, you don't have to talk to me, you can go right on up. And I think it's interesting based on where people book, because that building in particular gets a lot of Expedia and booking.com. And so people just think it's a normal hotel, I think. And so you have that difference in like, okay, what was the guest's journey to get here? And then that kind of shapes their, expectation for the experience. And when they realize that they can just go on in, there's no hassle, there's no waiting, I think you can see that they're like, oh, this is great. And it is, the failure to adapt. And now, like for the hotel industry, I think that I understand a lot of the hesitations because a lot of these companies are behemoths, and I understand that the mental gymnastics you have to do to say that we are going to implement new systems across thousands of hotels or whatever it is. But Will, to your point, yeah, they shouldn't have waited 20 years. The problem just is exacerbated by that time.
Yeah.
But I also see kind of like two different branches for hotels. And that is, for the ultra luxury or higher end, I really love the front desk experience where you have a little bit more of that hand holding. It's why you're paying whatever cost you're paying.
100%.
It's a little bit more personalized. But if you're just going to, for business travel or whatever is get in, get out, like I don't think that there's any need to really talk to a person unless there's something wrong.
Yeah. And
yeah,
I'm really glad you brought that up, Brandy. That goes back to the fees as well and the fee expectations. There is a difference of an upsell and a fee. And there's also a difference in a budget company and a service-oriented company. When I fly EasyJet or Ryanair in Europe, I know I'm going to get feed to hell. The ticket might be 49 euros, but if you want to actually get on the plane, it's another 20 euros.
Do you want to breathe?
If you want your seat to have a seatbelt, it's another 5 euros. If you want to check a backpack that's larger than this, then, it's even more money. If you want to print your ticket out, it's another 50 euros, like all this crazy fees. But that going into it, like people who buy EasyJet or Ryanair know they're about to get feed. If you buy Delta, you shouldn't be getting feed, right? So you're getting a seat. You can pick your seat. In fact, there's a seat class that says, don't pick my seat, which is totally fine. You know what you're getting. And there's a big difference between budget-oriented and service-oriented, an OYO versus a Marriott, and I don't know if that exists well enough in our industry yet. There's obviously professional managers and single hosts. There's single hosts that do better than most professional managers, and then there's professional managers that are better than virtually everybody else. So it's hard to differentiate as a traveler, and that's where I guess as a company, you need to determine, are you going to be service oriented or are you going to be budget oriented? And maybe that's a life cycle thing. Like you mentioned, Brandy, when you're, in the infantile stage, you need to bring in anything and everything you can. And then you can kind of shift and become more service oriented as you build a brand and, provide a maybe more expensive experience from the ticket price, but it includes all these additional fees that people don't like to pay.
Yeah, it's interesting like that. I have in my mind like my dream idea of like what we could provide as a operator someday when we can really go all out for some of like the more luxurious guest experiences. And I also think it's interesting from the kind of landlord owner perspective of how they view their properties and what they think, you should be charging. Because in our model we have excuse me, individual owners, but like they're owning a whole building, and they'll say like, oh, we think our property is valued at like this dollar price point per night, this ADR. And it's like, well, you obviously really care about your building, but it's in this neighborhood. It is relatively similar to all of these other properties. So it actually has to cost this much. And so there's a disconnect, I think, of like also the kind of level that some owners might have, like what they think their building is, which plays into it. But yeah, it's all that perspective. Will, what would you say your most hated airline fee is?
There's so many. Shoot. I would say like honestly the luggage piece, and it's gonna go back into the budget versus like Delta or my favorite Alaska. In the sense of like, I think it's crazy that Frontier can charge, like I'm in Denver, they're based in Denver. So it's like the most common airline you'll see out here. And that they can charge for like any woman or any person who has like a purse or a satchel. Like that is considered a carry-on like charge. And I think it's a crazy amount for like, Brandy, if you carry your purse everywhere and you never have to pay for it, and then you get on this flight and you have to pay $35 to carry your purse, like that's insane. So I think
leave it behind.
Obviously,
yeah. I was like,
leave.
No, like, and you see all these people, and this is kind of like a point I wanted to bring up. It's because it's kind of funny. You see people are now finding out like, oh, I can just pack my luggage domestically. Probably not the best idea to try this internationally, but you can pack your luggage and send it to UPS or FedEx or whatever shipping company. It'll be cheaper and it'll probably get there more faster, like more on time and more reliably without having it get all lost and having you to put an air tag on it so you can track it at the airport, because whatever airline, aka Southwest, had a lot of this happen. And we heard in like the Journal podcast where it's like, oh yeah, you could see that your luggage never left and it just stayed at the airport forever. So you have that type of stuff. Obviously, I get it. The bigger suitcases, you have a lot more, like let's say, I don't know what sizes they are, but you have the bigger ones, right? Like obviously you should pay for that. But when it comes to like the smaller stuff and the carry-on, it's crazy on how, and seating. I think that's dumb too, where you're like, oh, it's $99 to sit in the middle of the plane. Awesome. If I don't want to pay, any extra money, I have to sit all the way in the back, and like, cool, I would have sat there anyways, but no, I have to pay to just to even be anywhere close or convenient. So it's pretty insane on my end. That's my personal complaint.
Well, shifting gears real quick, question for you. Have either of you ever gotten on a plane with like absolutely nothing, just like whatever's in your pockets?
No.
Well, not absolutely nothing. I would say like a small bag, but it's like on my shoulder.
Yeah, I've done a small bag.
It's one of my favorite. It's one of the coolest feelings. It's like, I don't need anything. I'm just getting.
Where were you going where you didn't need anything?
I'm saying, for real.
It was a day trip somewhere and back the same day. So I just needed my phone, my keys, my wallet. Like,
wow, that's wild. I even if I'm just I'll have like my laptop. I'm always bringing a book. I have like my little case with all the cords in it,
Yeah.
No.
But,
yeah, never had that opportunity.
I think one of the craziest fees that came up in this article is when they're charging people, like families, to sit together.
Mhm.
And like, I understand if you have like grown children and like teenagers, they can sit wherever. But I mean, I'm not a parent yet, but I can't imagine being like, okay, I have like a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I have to pay $200. So we're sitting in one row. Like, what's the 3-year-old just going to be somewhere in the back on his own? Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah,
And
someone else's problem, right?
yeah, yeah, actually, somebody else gets to babysit. But I think, and I'm sure there would be other things that come into like the logistics of all of this, right? Like, from like the booking perspective. But you have to put in the birth dates of all the people anyways. So if you can see that there are kids like under 10 or whatever the age is, you should get a pass because this parent is traveling with children. First of all, like, have some empathy. And if that means that you have like, I don't know, a full row, maybe not the first row, but you're towards the back of the plane, I think sitting together is, the most important priority in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe airlines charge for that. That's absurd because it's not good for anyone. It's not good for the family. It's not good for the people that are stuck next to the 5-year-olds where their mom is 3 rows ahead. Like, in that case, basic humanity tends to win, and someone will volunteer to change seats. Like,
yeah,
usually,
but not always. But it is, it's absurd that would even be a thing. Like, families should travel together.
Well,
even
it
people
just goes to the point, like,
under the same ticket should have seats next to each other if they're available. If they're not available, it's a different story. If there's 2 seats left on a flight and one's row 12 and one's row 20, they chose that, right?
Yeah. Well, it goes to the point, Brandy, you made it up, saying like it is a pretty significant revenue stream for a lot of these companies, whether it's a vacation rental company, an airline, a hotel. But there are points where it's gotten a little too much. And I think like that's where they're like, oh, opportunities here. We can make more money and we're going to go seize it, and realize people had no choice. They're like, okay, well, I'm on this airline. I have to pay this. Like, there's nothing I can do, or else I won't get on my flight, or else I won't check into my room. So it's gotten to but I feel like, John Ann made a comment, just how insane out of like control it's gotten. And I totally agree. I think there's got to be a fine line, and unfortunately, part of being a public traded airline or whatever, you can do pretty much whatever, and you don't have to care about.
I actually have a kind of a pretty funny story about last minute bag fees. I was flying back from France, and my suitcase that I checked was potentially full of a lot of wine. So I had to find a bag, like a carry-on bag, like last minute in Paris. Everything was closed because it was Sunday. So I ended up getting this massive canvas bag that didn't zip. And I was like, we're just going to see how this goes. And it's full of like all my shoes. And because I had been on this like wedding trip for whatever, it was a lot of superfluous clothing items. But I make it to Lisbon, no problem getting it on as like a carry-on, no problem. The next day I had a flight from Lisbon back to Miami, and you have to go through like at the gate, another checkpoint. And the guy was like, you cannot, like, your total luggage is so heavy, like that has to go on the bottom of the plane. I'm like, well, this is an open bag, so it's coming with me on the plane in my hands. And he was like, well, that's going to be 150 euro. I'm like, okay. I was like, at this point, I was like, it's not going underneath the plane, and we're here. So sure, I guess. But I thought that was just so crazy because it was going on with me regardless. And I was like, it's just the only thing I have. Like, I'm taking care of it. It's going to weigh what it weighs if it's here or if it's underneath the plane. But they just got 150 euro out of me because I had to get on the plane,
Yep.
Yeah. It must have been nice wine.
Seriously.
It was really nice wine.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I had something similar in Mexico last year, but not worth going into. It's the same stuff that I came there with. They didn't charge me for, and then I came back with everything else that I came with, and then they charged me for more. So dumb. Anyways, I hope everyone
those gate agents are commissioned. Do you think they're commissioned? How much they charge?
I don't think so. There's no way.
That's a question for another day. I think they might be.
We should get a airline representative on the show and be like, hey,
give them a chance to defend themselves.
Yeah. Or just destroy them on a live podcast. Either way, whatever.
This is a friendly environment. Well, positive vibes. Remember Relentless Positivity 2023?
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot. I'm getting
On that
tattoo
note,
next.
we appreciate our sponsor, TravelNet/Track. So glad to have them on board with us for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is our first month officially with them. So very exciting.
I know. I'm pumped. It's been fun to work with the whole team. So get ready to all of our live viewers for more exciting content involving TravelNet. And on that note, we'll see everybody again next week.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.